To rig the laser, you're going to need to get a rudder, centerboard, sail, and tiller. You should have 3 spars already on the boat. The spars stay on the boat, and everything else can be found in the tool shed. So the first thing we're going to do is connect the upper and lower sections of the mast. So these just slide in together. The most important part is that the rivet on the upper section of the mast is aligned with the gooseneck on the lower section of the mast. Now the next thing we're going to do is put our sail on. We can just unroll the sail around the end of the mast. The sail has a pocket in it, and you want to find that part and roll the sail out so that it can just slide in the pocket. So here we can see the opening of the pocket, and we're just going to slide this down the mast. Now it's important to have the sail aligned with the gooseneck. So just as it would be when you're sailing, and if you don't do this, you'll end up with some twist in the sail, and it will look kind of weird. And then you just slide the sail all the way along the mast, as far as it will go. Now next we're going to have to stand up the mast into the mast slot. This is the hardest part of rigging a laser. So you want to start this with one hand near the vang and the other hand well up the sail, and you want to have some distance between your hands because that will make it a bit easier for you to control the sail when it's vertical. And then you're just going to pick it up and turn it vertically and drop it into the slot. And one other thing that's important to do while you're rigging is to have your boat pointed into the wind. I actually didn't do that here, and you can see how the sail is moving around. And on a windier day, the wind could catch the sail and make it quite difficult for you to put the mast up. The next thing we're going to do is attach the clew tie-down strap onto the clew of the sail. So we need to put the 2 pieces of Velcro together, and then we just pull them right through. And then it's going to look like this. We'll have both straps coming through, and then we'll have the eye on one side. Next, we're going to put the boom into the gooseneck, and then we're going to come around the back, and I like to put the boom up on my shoulder as we attach the clew tie-down strap. So we want to make sure that we don't have the strap affecting any of the rigging. So we make sure that it's right against the boom and all of the other rigging is going over the strap. And we want to have this piece of white plastic against the boom so that it can slide nicely. So we go through the eye and then we double back around the boom. And then there's a second piece of Velcro. We got to make sure that's up and out of the way. And then we fold it over top, which makes sure that it's secure. And then we can see that the sail will slide nicely along the boom. The next thing we're going to do is attach the clew to the shackle for the outhaul. And then we're going to come up to the front of the boat and we're going to finish off the rigging for the outhaul. Let's get the main sheet tangled around there. Okay, so I always like to tie a knot in the outhaul system when I de-rig so that it doesn't come undone between all of the blocks, and that just makes it easier for the next sailor to get started. Okay, so what we're going to do is untie this knot, and then we're going to run it through the pulley at the base of the mast, and then we're going to run it to the block immediately in front. There's a little loop on the back of the block, so it's important to go through that. Now on the mast, there's a marked range where the outhaul normally lives, and this can be measured with the block in the outhaul system. So what we're going to do is tighten the outhaul until the block is at the loosest end of the range, and then we're going to tie a stopper knot in the outhaul at this point so that it can never go looser than our loosest setting. Now here I like to do this daisy chain. So basically you just make a loop and then feed the next one through, and you just keep doing that a few times, and this just gives you kind of a nice handle to pull on. On the last one, you pull the tail through the loop, and that will make it secure. And so the tightest you'll go is with the block at the other end of the marked range. Next, we're going to do the mast tie down. The mast tie down is an important step to make sure that you don't damage the hull. So this is going to keep the mast from coming out in the event of a capsize. So we're going to go over the vang tang, and then we're going to go around the mast again under the vang tang, and then there's a little loop here that you can tie off onto. I like to tie a round turn and 2 half hitches here. It's I find the easiest knot to tie in this space. Okay, and then what should happen is that if you pull up on the mast, it'll stop from coming up very much, and you want to make sure that it can also rotate. If it's rigged properly, then the mast should be able to rotate any way that it wants to. Okay, next we're going to do the Cunningham. So the Cunningham should have 2 pieces. There's some blocks with some leverage, and then there's a loop that goes through the sail. Okay, so we're going to feed that through the eye of the sail, and then we're going to come down, and then on the top of the vang, there's a pin that you can attach the Cunningham to. I'm going to take that pin out. Okay, so we're going to feed this through the sail again here. So we go through the eye, and then it's important to go inside of the outhaul so that if you tighten the Cunningham, it's not binding onto the outhaul. We put that pin in and then put the ring on. And so like on the outhaul, we should have not tied in here so the system doesn't come apart. And then likewise, it goes down into the block at the base of the mast and into the cleat. Now for the Cunningham, it's usually a pretty hard control to put on. So what I like to do is tie a little loop here. So I just tie a bowline, and then that gives me something to pull on to make the outhaul a little easier to put a lot of pressure on. And the last one we're going to do is the vang. So first we want to check, make sure there's no tangles in here, pull all the line out, and then it just clips in to the boom. And the vang's also rigged with a nice loop for pulling, and that one you don't need to do. It'll be all there ready for you. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to go. Now when we go onto the water, we're going to keep the main sheet detached until we're ready to go, and this will let the sail go wherever it wants. And then once we're on the water, we're going to attach the 2 blocks. You do them by putting them 90 degrees to each other and then pushing them together, and the 2 rings will join. Okay, but we're going to leave this detached until we're ready to go on the water. Okay, next we're going to get our rudder together. So I like to put the rudder together on shore because I find it's a lot easier to do than doing on the water. So we're just going to slide the 2 pieces together. We're going to do that with the rudder vertical, and then we're going to pull the rope around the cleat, pull as tight as we can, and then we just tie a cleat hitch here. So we do half of the figure eight and then a twist for the other half of the figure eight. Okay, and then that's a secure knot. There's nothing more you need to do. There's a lot of line on this one, so I'm just going to wrap it around the tiller to use that extra line so it doesn't get caught anywhere. But this is not necessary to have a strong knot here. And then when we're ready to sail, that's just going to drop into the pintle and gudgeon on the back of the boat. Now there's two lines for the Traveler. The tiller needs to go under the first line and over the second line. So we'll make the Traveler loose to make this easier to do, and then we'll feed the rudder in, and then we're just going to leave it here, and we're going to put it in once we're on the water. So we're going to pull the Traveler really tight just so that we don't lose the rudder as we're going into the water. And then once you go in the water, you're going to release that and just drop the rudder in. And then the last thing you need to do is drop the centerboard in. So you've got three things to do on the water. You will attach the main sheet, the two blocks, you'll put the rudder in, and then you'll put the dagger board in, and then you're ready to sail.
Tell us more about.
You want to have your mask on. It goes behind both ears and it comes down and around the front here.
Just so we can get a good.
So when you're in the boat, you have your mask on.